vai ser uma luta, né? Todos nós ali que tá ali dentro, preparado para isso.
Alex Pereira puts an unexpected $2,000 challenge on the table for Magomed Ankalaev, ahead of UFC 313. But the Russian's response sparks heated debate.
Todas as minhas entrevistas, com todo mundo que eu lutei, eu sempre vou na vontade de ganhar. Eu quero ganhar, mas não sei se eu vou ganhar, né? Então, mesmo assim, com esse pensamento, eu quero apostar $200 mil.
With UFC 313 just days away, the tension between Alex Pereira and Magomed Ankalaev has reached new heights. What started as an intense matchup for the light heavyweight title has now turned into a battle of pride mind games and even charity wagers. As fight week kicked off, Pereira made things even more interesting by challenging Ankalaev to a $2,000 bet, proposing that the winner donate the sum to a charity of their choice.
Março, em Las Vegas, a gente está apostando $200 mil para fazer uma doação para crianças carentes ou crianças do câncer, né? Onde muitas pessoas estão precisando dessa ajuda, né? Como o Ali e o Ankalaev, eles parece que têm 100% de certeza que eles vão ganhar de mim, então eu acho que eles vão aceitar esse desafio, né? Eu sou uma pessoa que sou pé no chão, consciente de tudo que eu falo, em todas as minhas entrevistas, com todo mundo que eu lutei, eu sempre vou na vontade de ganhar. Eu quero ganhar, mas eu não sei se eu vou ganhar, né? Então, mesmo assim, com esse pensamento, eu quero apostar $200 mil, né? E não importa, tem que vir do Ankalaev, né, do empresário dele. Se alguém quiser patrocinar esses $200 mil aí e colocar no nome deles para fazer essa aposta, para mim não tem problema. Os $200 mil é do meu bolso, eu estou ciente, né? Quero fazer isso. E assim, se eu vou ganhar, não sei, mas eu quero ganhar realmente. E olha só, eu posso perder, mas muitas pessoas que estão precisando vão ganhar, né? O pessoal do câncer, com certeza isso vai ajudar muito eles. Então vem aqui deixar esse desafio pro Ankalaev, pro Ali, empresário dele, né? Fique com vocês aí, né?
However, Ankalaev quickly shut down the offer, explaining that betting goes against his Islamic beliefs. He also emphasized that, as a practicing Muslim, he already donates 2.5% of his wealth to charity as required by his faith. The Russian fighter expressed his willingness to help those in need, but made it clear that such acts did not need to be publicized. Rather than engaging in a public wager, he suggested their managers could handle any charitable contributions privately. His response was firm yet respectful, wishing Pereira a Ramadan Mubarak in the process. He posted, as a Muslim, betting is forbidden in Islam, and also as a Muslim every year I have to give 5% of my wealth to charity. This is one of the 5 pillars of Islam. Many kids around the world are in need, and we can do things after the fight, but we don't have to publicize it. Your manager and my manager have a good relationship, and we can let them handle that. See you soon. Ramadan Mubarak. Despite the respectful decline, the challenge only added to the pre-fight drama. Pereira never went back down from a mental battle, and continued to showcase his training camp's progress, releasing footage of himself in action just days before fight night. While his striking prowess is unquestioned, the lingering concern remains: how will he handle Ankalaev's grappling? The last time Pereira faced a skilled wrestler, he struggled against Jan Blachowicz, though he ultimately secured the win. Since then, he has worked diligently on his ground game, earning a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt and adding Dylan Danis to his training team to sharpen his skills further.
Vamos pra guerra, tô bem, tô preparado, motivado, tô aqui com a minha equipe, a gente chega tudo junto, tem mais pessoas vindo, e é isso daí. Uma pessoa melhor.
Yet many still question whether that will be enough. Ankalaev is a far more dynamic grappler than Blachowicz and possesses a well-rounded skill set that makes him a dangerous threat in any position. If he gets Pereira to the mat for an extended Period, the champion may find himself in serious trouble. That being said, Pereira remains confident that he can hold his own. He turned the tables on Ankalaev's doubts, challenging him with a simple question. If he can't grapple me for 25 minutes, then what? The message was clear: if Ankalaev fails to dominate on the ground, he will be forced to trade strikes and standing. Toe-to-toe with Pereira is a daunting task for any fighter.
Queria, porque faz treino de toque com alto nível, aí sai pouquinho assim, mas pô, fez 10 rounds aí, só movimentando, pá, muito esperto, cara, muito bom.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this fight. I think this is going to be a great experience, and I can make his words my own as well. Let's see if he can stand 25 minutes doing that. If he can't grapple me for 25 minutes, then he's going to have to stand up, and then we all know how that's going to go. But obviously, I didn't focus a lot on grappling before I moved to the U.S., but I've been in the U.S. now for about 4 years, training with Glover, and really focused on that and really dedicated on that.
However, Ankalaev is not backing down. While he has been respectful in his responses, he has subtly hinted at frustrations regarding the timing of this fight, with UFC 313 taking place during Ramadan. He is fasting daily while training for the biggest fight of his career. In the UFC 313 embedded series, he revealed that there were no other options when accepting this fight, suggesting that turning it down could have cost him his long-awaited title shot. This revelation has sparked controversy, with some fans speculating that the UFC might have scheduled the fight strategically to give Pereira an advantage. The Brazilian is already seen by some as a fighter receiving favorable matchups, and this only adds fuel to that debate.
How do you separate all of his accolades from just the man that you're going to face inside the cage?
Yeah, we're obviously not underestimating and not belittling all the accomplishments that he had. He is a great fighter, but he's only fought strikers. He's only been in there with the strikers, and I'm a different type of fighter. I'm a striker, I'm a good striker, but I can also wrestle with the best of them, so it's going to be a whole different fight for him.
Regardless of external circumstances, Ankalaev remains focused. Evloev has expressed confidence in Ankalaev's ability to beat Pereira, even without relying on wrestling. According to Evloev, Pereira's defense has too many gaps, making him vulnerable to a skilled and composed striker like Ankalaev. Unlike Pereira, who often relies on sheer power, Ankalaev's technical prowess and amateur MMA background provide him with a level of control that could prove crucial in this fight. He stated even, "If Ankalaev does not use his wrestling, I think he has enough skills in striking to beat Pereira. Ankalaev is good enough to beat this guy, and Pereira usually does not defend himself very well, just believes in his power and just goes through. But Ankalaev is different. He has a high-level skill set, big experience in amateur MMA, and he's a monster in professional MMA." However, not everyone shares that confidence. Former UFC bantamweight champion Dominic Cruz believes that attempting to strike with Pereira could be a mistake. He pointed out that no one at 205 lbs has been able to withstand the Brazilian's power, and if Ankalaev chooses to stand and trade, he might suffer the same fate as Pereira's previous opponents. Instead, Cruz argues that the Russian's best path to victory is mixing his wrestling with striking, rather than committing to one approach.
And he says he's going to strike, but I hope not, to be honest, because you want to see Pereira really challenged, and I think the best way that Ankalaev can challenge him is by mixing the striking and the wrestling together. There's a beauty to see alone in just that, mixing the two arts, rather than I'm just going to wrestle him or I'm just going to strike with him. Like, I want to see the beauty and the art of Ankalaev mixing the grappling and the striking together. And I think that's the key to beating somebody like Pereira. You have to do that.
Meanwhile, Matt Brown has raised concerns about Pereira's focus leading up to UFC 313. As the reigning champion, Pereira has become increasingly involved in public appearances and even acting commitments, which Brown fears may distract him from the rigorous training necessary to maintain his dominant run. Brown believes that while Pereira has benefited from favorable matchups so far, Ankalaev presents an entirely different level of challenge, one that requires full commitment to preparation. He stated absolutely possible. He's distracted. He doesn't come across as the type to do that, but it's 1000% possible because the way that you train to get there is for the vast majority of guys completely different when you're there. He won glory, championships and everything. He didn't have a ton of popularity at that time. Now he's getting hit from all angles. His mind, there's no way it's in exactly the same spot. The same hunger, and Ankalaev has a lot to prove here. A lot of people are probably writing him off, and he feels like he's kind of been shorted this whole time, having to work so much to get the title shot and felt like Alex was kind of fucking him. Yeah, he's fighting a guy that's hungry, as adding another layer to the pre-fight narrative. Former middleweight champion Robert Whittaker voiced his prediction. Siding with Pereira, Whittaker believes that
I'm going to get Pereira.
It's hard to write him off, right? Like he keeps proving himself.
I just don't. Like I said, if Ankalaev doesn't drop level within in the first 3 minutes, I don't think he makes it out of the first round. I don't want to be in that. I don't want to be striking with that guy.
Yeah.
Period. He hits like a truck. He's very comfortable and confident at standing. So, yeah, you have to get him on his back in that first round.
Chael Sonnen also weighed in on the matchup, but with a different take focusing on Pereira's size. According to Sonnen, Pereira entered Fight Week 22 lbs over the limit, the same amount he used to cut when competing at middleweight. This raises questions about just how massive the Brazilian really is and whether a move to heavyweight is inevitable. Sonnen speculated that Pereira could bulk up to 240 lbs if he made the jump, making him a serious threat in yet another division. However, Sonnen also pointed out the struggles of cutting such a significant amount of weight, recalling his own experiences of shedding 22 lbs before weigh-ins and the toll it took on his body.
Let the world know he's 22 pounds over. Now, just to remind you, 22 pounds over on Fight Week is the exact same thing that Pereira used to be over when he was fighting down a weight class. So he's very used to this number of 22 pounds. But it does make you wonder just how big is this guy? I mean, he's already moved up 20 pounds to get to the weight class. He remains 22 pounds over. There's a conversation of him being a heavyweight that some people, myself included, are really hoping for. I can relate to that exact number. I remember being in Las Vegas for a fight in the summertime, 22 pounds overweight. 22 pounds the day before weigh-ins, overweight. And I remember quite literally the depression of seeing that scale, seeing that number, knowing how much time was on the clock, and knowing what I was going to have to put myself through to get there. So Alex is 225 right now. If that magic number can be achieved anywhere between 222 like Randy and 240 like Kane, Daniel, and Stipe, I just wonder how big could he get? How big is the guy?
Moreover, Joe Rogan will return to the commentary booth for UFC 313 after skipping UFC 312 in Australia due to his policy of not traveling outside North America for events. The veteran color commentator will reunite with John Anik and analyst Daniel Cormier at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. Meanwhile, Justin Gaethje is making headlines ahead of his fight against Rafael Fiziev, who stepped in to replace Dan Hooker in the co-main event, UFC 313. Gaethje's last bout ended in a devastating knockout, lost to Max Holloway at UFC 300. The fight was an all-out war, with both fighters exchanging brutal shots for 5 rounds. In the final second, Holloway knocked Gaethje out, cold-handing him one of the toughest losses of his career. Afterward, a clip of Holloway's emotional celebration went viral, sparking debate among fans. Gaethje responded with grace, acknowledging that emotions run high after a fight, and that he too would have celebrated similarly had he won. He posted great reminder of what's at stake: live by the sword. Die by the sword, it's all I know. I was trying to do the exact same thing to him. I might have backflipped on him. There is no controlling the sudden rush of emotion. Focusing on his evolution, Gaethje acknowledges that He is no longer the reckless brawler he once was in the World Series of Fighting. He has refined his skills and become a more technical, well-rounded fighter. However, he insists that his signature intensity and aggression remain unchanged moving. Forward, he plans to find the balance between strategy and relentless pressure, ensuring that he remains a top contender in the lightweight division. He stated if you watch the World Series of Fighting Gaethje, that's who you're going to see, but just more refined. I obviously have much better skills than I did in those days, and that's my mindset. Rafael Fiziev has been eagerly awaiting his return to the octagon, facing Justin Gaethje in a rematch. Fiziev will compete for the first time since suffering a torn ACL in his 2023 bout against Gamrot. Originally, Fiziev had expected to run it back with Gamrot in February, but circumstances changed when Dan Hooker Gaethje's scheduled opponent withdrew due to a hand injury. With limited time to prepare, Fiziev has received an unexpected opportunity to step in on short notice.
I have a feeling for short notice, and but not Justin, you know. This is like, wow.
Okay, so what happened? You found out that Dan Hooker got hurt, and then what did you guys do?
Well, when I hear that, I straight away saying like, I'm ready. Let's go. I tell him to, I call him to my manager called me. He say like, hey, this situation. I say, hey, let's go. I'm ready.
Fiziev's excitement to return goes beyond just facing Gaethje again. Having been a fighter since childhood, he expressed how much he missed competing, likening the absence of fighting to an extended period of longing. The time away has only fueled his hunger to step back into the cage.
It's all coming together for you.
Yeah, it's my best time right now. It's now I think from 30 until 34. It's like the best time for all of men's, all of the male people. Like you know, I think this is like we're on the peak right now, on the top.
Tom Aspinall weighed in on the matchup, highlighting Gaethje's unique approach. Though Gaethje has an extensive wrestling background and well-rounded skills, he often chooses to engage in wild exchanges rather than relying on technical advantages. One of Gaethje's most effective weapons, Aspinall noted, is his signature calf kick, which he throws with incredible force by lunging into it like a soccer-style strike. He stated he's got all the skills, chooses to not use them. He just gets in there and has a scrap. So we've got these two, predominantly they're both orthodox. One of my favorite techniques that Gaethje uses is he doesn't just use the calf kick, he uses the running, kicking the soccer ball calf kick. Looking back at their first fight, Dominic Cruz emphasized just how brutal the contest was, noting that both fighters ended up in the
Even I tip my hat to Gaethje for giving the opportunity. Like, there's not a lot of guys willing to do rematches because they know, all right, I beat this guy and I don't want to give him another shot to beat me. So guys don't always give rematches. You know, I've had a couple rivalries where I've had to rematch, and it's a different game when you got to prepare for the same guy. He's had short notice to do so, but I know Gaethje was prepared for a very hard fight, so it's probably kind of par for the course for him to just adapt to a different style. He's a pure kickboxer, not a ton of grappling that he's going to force on Gaethje. So it'll be a fun fight, just like it was the first time. They both went to the hospital. I have no doubt it's going to be the same way this time.
Robert Whittaker expressed his enthusiasm for the matchup, stating that it stands out as the most exciting potential fight in his eyes. Comparing it to other possible bouts, he suggested that while matchups like Gaethje versus Dustin Poirier or Gaethje against Max Holloway might have generated interest, they wouldn't have sparked the same level of excitement for him.